Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Jacksonville in front of the Morgan County Courthouse. You may notice as you drive through the county seats in central Illinois that the grandest building is usually the courthouse. So we're going to start a series on central Illinois courthouses, and today we're in Morgan County. This courthouse behind me, finished in 1868, is one of the grandest buildings in the county, and it's been recently restored. County Commissioner Dick Rawlings joins us to talk about not only the history of the building, but the restoration project and the fact that you kind of started at the top and you're working your way down on the restoration, aren't you, Dick?
Yes. Mark, we want to thank you for coming to visit the Morgan County Courthouse and showcasing our landmark here in Morgan County.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
It's, as you said, a very beautiful building.
Yes, it is.
We have recently rehabbed part of the slate roofing, replaced it, and you'll see that there's some patterns to the roofing material, the different colors of slate up there. The courthouse was designed by G.L. Gabriel from Chicago. He was an architect that did several of the courthouses in downstate Illinois back in the mid-1860s. Mm-hmm. The courthouse constructed with Joliet limestone. It was, of course, quarried in Joliet and trucked down to Jacksonville area by rail. As you said, it was constructed in 1868, occupied in 1869 by the court system and the other courthouse personnel at that time. This is the third courthouse in Morgan County. Two previous courthouses were on the public square here in Jacksonville. One of them was a small 30 by 40 clapboard courthouse. Yeah. It burned down about 2 years after they moved into it. The third one was a 40 by 50 brick two-story courthouse, generally described by people at that time as being a very ugly building. So we were pleased that our forefathers had the foresight to construct this courthouse.
So when you saw the plans on, or when they saw the plans on this one, they were very pleasantly surprised, I guess.
I'm sure they were.
This is really, it's majestic. It looks like a cathedral. It almost looks like a cathedral more than it does a public building, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's really beautiful.
It's now, from Second French Renaissance.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
It has, now we can see the clock tower, and there's a bell tower up there, and rumor has it that you will take us up there later in the program if our legs are up to it, climbing up there.
I'll be pleased to show you the way.
Okay. And also, as long as we're at the top, and you mentioned the pattern of the tiles up there, we also get a good look from the top, from the belfry up there at that. But I see the design that you're going for there with the gray and the red tiles. Is those the original patterns that were up there?
As close as we can tell from previous renderings and pictures, that is pretty close to the patterns that existed at that time.
Right in the center, right above the date, there's stained glass up there.
There is. That is called a bull's eye window, and you'll see that there is a Lady of Justice out of stained glass placed in that bull's eye window. It looks smaller from here. Actually, it's about a 48-inch diameter. That project was completed by Jacksonville Art Glass here in the city of Jacksonville.
Very nice. And
actually, it replaces a wooden statue that sat on the peak of the center of the courthouse. The wooden statue was about 8 foot tall at one time, and she disintegrated, of course, and in the later 1800s, I think she disappeared.
We'll get the story behind Lady Justice. I think the problem was she was made of soft wood, and she just didn't stand up to the task, did she?
That's true.
Okay. Well, Dick, thank you. We're going to hear more from your fellow commissioners about the history of the building and see some of that and some of the inside of the building as well. And like you say, you'll promise you'll take us up to the clock. That'll be a lot of fun.
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mark. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, John Kroll, we were discussing Lady Justice before and the fact that she toppled off of her balance up there, and they needed another Lady Justice, and your firm came forward and said, we can do that.
Well, we're very grateful to Dick Rawlings and for the lawyers and the attorneys of the town who donated to the project for selecting Jacksonville Art Glass. It's an honor for us to be part of the history of the Morgan County Courthouse.
Yeah.
So we came and have an artist, the resident artist, Sean Merchant, who did a lot of the designing. He did the painting. My son, who's 16, Alex, he actually assembled the window. He's a fine craftsman himself.
Yeah.
And then we placed it in its abode as it is right now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a great addition, and I understand. Now, we're not looking at it at nighttime, but describe what it looks like at night.
Well, at night it takes a little different appearance. Right now, you'll see that the background colors have a lot of the color. The background has the color of the stone. Mm-hmm. You'll get a little bit less of that at night, but more illumination. So it has a little bit more of an eye and a focal point that kind of looks over the rest of the town of Jacksonville.
So you've installed lights behind it. It's backlit, so at night you can really make out the details.
Yeah, that was already put in place for us. So all we had to do was place the
all you had to do was make the glass.
There
right?
we are.
There you
That's
go.
all. Yeah.
Well, it's a really nice addition. It's very nice. Thanks for talking to us about it.
Well, happy to be here.
Well, Bill Meyer, you can't enter on this level anymore, security being what it is these days,
Right.
but this would have been the main entrance. Would you come in there and walk back this way?
That's right. We closed the main entrance about 4 years ago because there's just been so many tumultuous times, and we said we have to do something.
Sure.
And to be ADA accessible, we had to go down the lower floor because that way you can get in with a wheelchair.
Right.
So hopefully one of these days we might be able to open it, but the way the money crunch is, I don't know.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't get a chance to see the main hall, which is very pretty. It's very with the archways and the woodwork.
Right.
It's very attractive.
Well, we redid that about 6 years ago. Basically everything needed a fresh coat of paint. It had been painted in 20 years. So now we just did the county clerk's office this year and the treasurer's office about 4 years ago. So we're in pretty good shape, and the painting contractor is the one that designed the arches as far as the colors and everything. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, it's very, very pretty. Now, I wanted to stop here, not only to see the main hall, but also maybe one of your most famous residents in Morgan County was this man that you have on in the portrait here.
Yeah, Stephen Douglas was Morgan County State's Attorney, as the sign says, from 1834 to 1836. This was his first elected office. Many people think that he and Lincoln had trials together or against each other, but that's not the case. They did debate, but as far as having an actual trial against each other, they never did.
They were running into each other all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like wherever one of them went in the state, the other one was nearby.
Yeah, of course, he was in Winchester first. So
Right.
Douglas was. So, yeah, but they called him the Little Giant. Of course, he was only like 5'5". You know, he wasn't very tall.
He was a dynamo.
Yeah.
I like the way you have right on the opposite wall from him. Then over here, you've got everybody's favorite son, Abraham Lincoln, and he had a history in Morgan County too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, years ago. Now we haven't done it in some time, but Bob Crow and Ken Bradbury, who are two local playwrights, wrote the play Shadow Giants. And that was performed for the Historical Society, and basically what it was a true story of one of Lincoln's trials, and the trial was pitting Colonel Dunlap, who was the owner of the Dunlap Hotel and one of the richest guys in Jacksonville, against the editor of the Jacksonville paper back in those days. And what Colonel Dunlap was being tried for is that he whacked the editor of the paper because he didn't like what the editor had said. So Lincoln was, he was defending Dunlap. General Murray McConnell was defending the plaintiff, the editor of the paper, and I was J.C. McConnell, and I sat on Lincoln's side, and Murray McConnell was my father, and he was representing the editor of the paper. So it was really good. There had a lot of people come to that. So.
One more quick stop here. Just so everybody would know for sure that Lincoln actually did practice law in the old courthouse here in Morgan County. These were found in records not too long ago, and these are copies of the Lincoln documents that were found here in Morgan County.
That's correct. Barb Baker was a circuit clerk here about 8 years ago. I can't really say when they were found, but when they were found in her tenure, so it would have to be probably within the last 20 or 30 years. Of course, these are just copies. We sent the main ones over to the Lincoln legal papers. So.
Sure.
That was pretty exciting when they
found
something.
them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, now we're moving kind of slow here. My destination is these pictures on the wall, since we're talking about the courthouse here. These go down through the years. This is probably an artist's rendering, but this would have been one of the first sketches, I guess, wouldn't it?
That's exactly right, yes. Yeah. It was found, as you say, in Lloyd's in 1878. Now, before, Mark, we get too much into this, I want to recognize the lady that had really helped us out on this. Her name was Joanne Beard, and she was one of the ladies that got the courthouse on the National Historic Register. And when she heard that I was trying to find out more history of the courthouse, she had contacted me and she said, "Bill, I got this book and a lot of pictures." And so I said, "I'd like to see it." She brought it up here to us, and I said, "When do you want it back?" Joanne said, "Just keep it."
So all the groundwork she had done, she just turned over to you.
She just turned over to me. And then that's all these pictures that you see were in the original application for the courthouse to become listed on the National Historic Register.
You know, we misspoke earlier too, talking about, before we get too ahead of ourselves, the architect on record of this is Randall. We identified him wrongly, but his name is Randall.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This one here, and I like this one because this has a horse-drawn trolley or a horse-drawn wagon or something.
And if you can see up the top here, those things are, they're not electric wires, but they would just fall in the film itself. Of course, those days they used the stereotypes for, I can't remember the exact word, but it looks like electrical wires in this picture. And you can see the Lady of Justice on most of these, getting down to the last one, I think, is in the 1930s.
Let's point that out. This is the Lady of Justice up here, and we mentioned her earlier. She's no longer there.
No.
She's not on her parapet. In fact, even the parapet is gone.
Yeah, the parapet's gone in 1950, I think, or 1930s, one of the two. I think it's on the next picture. They covered that over. Now, the interesting thing about her is...
Here's where she was standing originally.
Right, that's where she was standing.
And what happened to her, do we know?
We have no idea. Idea.
Did somebody steal her, or did she fall apart?
Well, according to the records, in 1974, she lost the scale. And then later on, she lost the sword, which was a 4-foot sword. And she was 8 foot tall and made out of white pine from Kentucky. And then in somewhere between 1927 and 1930, they lost her, and nobody knows what happened.
Nobody knows where she is.
And the ladies tried to research, but couldn't find out anything about her. So it's a story that's still a mystery.
Probably a well-meaning janitor just took her down, and because she was falling apart or she was rotting away or something, and just took her to the dump, maybe.
Yeah, took her to the dump. Back in those days, they did a lot of things like that. So, and one other thing I was telling you off camera, the interesting thing that I found is when they decided to build the new courthouse, the county board wanted it downtown, but the city of Jacksonville, the people in the city, didn't want it downtown.
You mean on the square?
Yeah, they didn't want it on the square. They wanted that to be retained as a park. So they put it a block down from the square, where you see most of the courthouses are on the square. So,
well, Brad Zeller, we sort of described the restoration work that had gone, and we talked about how you're working from the top down. So you volunteered to come up here on the top with us and show us a little about what we were talking about. We're right between the two towers.
That's correct, and we're looking to the south, and this would be called the southeast tower, and then the southwest tower. And the southwest tower has the bell in it.
What was wrong with this tower that it needed so much help over?
Well, you can see, if the camera can show the structural work that was done here, and there was some stones put in. They had deteriorated from water standing in it for years. The gutter work was incomplete, and now it's all been capped with a copper gutter.
And is it tricky to find copper workers?
Well, it was, and the subcontractor had to bring the welders in from northern Illinois, and we kind of worked off their schedule.
And what about the paint and the windows? I mean, the woodwork around the windows, that looks like it's all been done.
Yes, we had, of course, a separate subcontractor come in. We were fortunate it was a local contractor here in town, and then they did all the painting and caulking of the windows in both the towers.
You know, if we can walk over a little closer to that tile or the slate, this looks like the kind of material that you just wouldn't find just anywhere. I mean, that was the original building material was slate, wasn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And then when it was redone, they put asphalt shingles on it. It was cheaper, of course, to do that. And then when we were contemplating doing the work through our architect, we had several different bids. And the asphalt shingle was a little bit cheaper than the slate shingle. A lot of labor involved in putting a slate shingle on. But the board made a decision, and a unanimous decision, that we felt this was the proper way to go for the longevity and the looks of the courthouse.
And, you know, like you said, you looked at those old photographs and you looked at them and you looked at them. You didn't have any in color, so you just kind of had to take a guess, didn't you, what you wanted to do?
Yeah, through the consultation of the architect, we made a determination of a gray slate shingle, and this is the color of the combination that we picked out that has the red design within it. And we have 2 rows of design here, and then 2 on the west tower too.
How much did phase 1 cost?
Well, we're just short of $1.3 million. And the county board had made the decision that we started to fund 4 or 5 years ago, and we were able to contribute to that fund on a yearly basis and create a so-called savings account. And through that savings account, we were able to pay for the whole first phase of the project.
Wow. Okay, so are you saving up for the phases to come?
Well, we are saving up, but the revenue isn't quite what it was at the time, and we would love to be able to put some money away. We did put a little bit more back this year for the next phase, which is a very small phase, the energy efficiency phase.
Okay. Well, thanks for showing us up here.
Well, you're welcome. It's got a beautiful view of the city, and you go over here and you can see the new downtown plaza and the work. So we were glad to coordinate that with the new downtown renovation, and we think that we have, created a great environment down here with the look of the courthouse and the downtown. So we hope we prosper from that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Dick, you may be wishing that you hadn't promised to bring us up this bell tower, but this is
pleasure. It's a good exercise
we're
for
about
us.
about 3 levels up now, and we're in that there are 2 towers, one to the east and one to the west, and we're in the west tower.
This is the west tower, also the clock tower.
The clock tower, right? So one's got the clock faces on it, and of course it's got the bell in it.
Yes, it does.
And when we get up to the 3rd level like this, you start to see the workings of the clock that we're describing.
Oh, yes. We have the weights for the clock, which of course has to be reset each week, and the pendulum is higher, closer to the ceiling of this floor, which makes the clock keep time, of course.
Those weights, I can't imagine what they must weigh, but they seem to. This thing keeps perfect time, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's adjusted and reset twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Okay. Is that a specialty? I mean, somebody lives in Jacksonville and they're a clock specialist.
The Jacksonville Clockworks. Yes.
No kidding.
Yes, sir. It is.
They come in twice a week and
yes,
wind
he does.
it. Okay.
Lubricate the clockworks and wind it and reset it.
Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
And that pendulum, my goodness, that looks just like it's just a big stone, a big rolled stone, isn't it? It's as heavy as can be, I bet.
I'm going to guess about 150 pounds.
It's just like a grandfather clock.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the works are just like a grandfather's clock.
Okay. Still climbing, Dick.
Next floor up.
Look at this beautiful clockwork. And we were just looking at the pendulum downstairs. There she is, swinging away. Isn't that a beautiful clock? Seth Thomas.
Mark, in 1868, when the courthouse was under construction, the contractor, of course, had some overruns and the county ran out of money. So this clock is not an original part of the construction of the courthouse. In 1984 through 1987, the Jacksonville Emblem Club had a fundraiser and came up with the money. They found this clockworks, which had originally been in a Catholic church in the Boston area. It was brought out here, brought out here, and installed in the courthouse.
I'll be darned. So you had a little money left over, just enough to buy a clock. So the clock face, I mean, you all had to locate a clock face too for this thing.
Yes, yes.
Was that all part of the same package?
Yes.
No kidding. Isn't that something? Well, it's just beautiful. And twice a week, you have some local people come in here and oil and set this thing and rebalance it and all that
The
stuff.
Jacksonville Clockworks, the owner of that establishment, comes in twice a week, adjusts it. I think probably oils the parts and resets the time on things.
It'd be a pleasure to work on, wouldn't it, if you were a clock guy?
If you knew how, it would be.
Wouldn't it?
It'd be challenging for me.
It's beautiful. Well, we're almost to the top. We're getting up to the bell anyway.
Mark, this bell was placed as part of the original construction, and it can be heard almost all over town, as I can show you.
I guess.
This does strike on the hour, controlled by the clock downstairs.
You wouldn't want to be up here and be surprised when that thing starts going off, would you?
Absolutely not.
Oh my goodness. That thing, and was that a full whack, or did you just give that half of it?
I held back a little bit.
Amazing. You know, you gave me some facts about this clock, and I just find it fascinating. It arrived on June 18th, 1869, so the year after the courthouse was built, and it arrived by flat car from Pittsburgh, where it was made.
Yes, sir.
It's 42 inches high, has a mouth of 56 inches. It's 3 inches thick on the sides and weighs 4,000 pounds. 2 tons. It's mounted on an iron frame, which adds its total weight, brings its total weight to over 5,000 pounds. That's incredible. When you're down in your office and this thing rings noon, do you think, oh, I wish it would stop?
Yes, you do.
I wish it would shut up.
Sometimes it just rings and rings.
Oh, it's something to see. It really is. Well, Dick, we're lucky. There's a break in the court schedule here for a few minutes. This is the main courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And as you look at it's been flip-flopped through the years. When the courthouse was originally designed, the bench was back there, wasn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah. And then on this side, there was a balcony where you could have overflow crowd, or if people wanted to sit upstairs, they could do that, and that's all been changed.
Yes, Mark, that is correct. The bench now is on the south side of the courtroom, and there used to be a balcony across the ceiling area here on the south side. I think the balcony was removed probably for structural purposes in 1906, I believe, is when it was removed. And then the courtroom was restyled, where the bench moved from the north side of the courtroom to the south side of the courtroom in 1929, and they revamped the whole courtroom up here.
You can't help but have your eyes drawn to this chandelier when you walk in this room.
That is true.
I mean, it's powerful. It's big and it's beautiful.
The chandelier was originally in the Methodist Centenarian Church on East State Street here in Jacksonville. They tore down the church, and this was donated by the Morgan County Historical Society. It was electrified, I think, in the early 1900s, and it was donated by the Historical Society in 1999 and placed here in the courtroom, and it's quite a eye-catcher.
Well, you know, that's really nice, because I mean, there isn't a place where you could hang something like this that it would be seen more or draw more attention or be in a more dignified location than the main courtroom.
Very true, very true. It's such a massive chandelier that it takes a large room to really do it justice.
Yeah. And anywhere else you might put it, nobody would know. They might see it once in a while, but nobody really knows there.
Exactly, yeah. It gets a lot of exposure here in the courtroom. It's a very active courtroom.
Sean Artish, you know, we tour the courthouse and we talk about the history of the courthouse all the time, but there's a lot of new stuff going on too.
Oh, yeah.
You're the GIS coordinator, right?
Yep. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems.
Okay.
And what allows us to do is take general information that's been stored on maps and paper copies for years, and we can take those old plats and lay on top of aerial photography.
So you've got all your aerial photography shot,
Yes.
and it's all in the software now. And if we come around here and look at this is a wide shot from the air of Morgan County, and this is all the properties and this is a platted county map, right? Now, this is interesting. You were able to actually tell the U.S. Census that they were wrong in their count because they didn't include a lot of properties, right?
Yes. One of the things that we did with our 911 is that they assign addresses throughout the county, and by using 911 lists, we were able to
Look at that.
turn our labels off here.
Wow. Every one of those is an address?
Every one of these red dots represents an address within our county. And whenever a new address goes on, we can just add that, and using these lists from our 911 office, we can go ahead and add those in. And after comparing the census list to our 911 list, we found there were close to 500 addresses throughout the county that the census did not have.
Wow, fascinating. You know, this is useful for a lot of things too. Now, on this screen over here, you can bring up like downtown for us, downtown Jacksonville for us, can't you? Okay, is this the square?
Yes, this here is the square. Images is this image is from 2009, so it doesn't include all the new downtown renovations yet. You know, maybe another year or two, maybe we'll do that again. But this is currently planning for Jacksonville's downtown celebration. And by using our images, our local leaders can kind of plan out ahead what they're getting, how they're going to set up security. For instance, these purple colored ones are the barricades, and these different colors are different parking areas. And by using this in different events, they can use that to print these little handouts to all the workers, all the security that may be working the event, and all the organizers, so they know beforehand what how to organize.
So you here at the county building, and 911, and the fire department, and the police department, they all have this same software, and you can coordinate all this stuff together.
Yes. Give you an idea with this imagery. We'll zoom into the downtown. We are currently working with 911 to have this at the dispatch center where they can get the new imagery.
Maintenance of venerable old buildings like the Morgan County Courthouse take constant care. Next up on the restoration project, from the roof down, new roofing and air conditioning. With another Illinois story in Jacksonville, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.